Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Squeegee podcast. I am your host, Gabriel Gutierrez. So happy to have you with us here. Also, I am happy to have a good friend of mine, Mr. Pete Cruz. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. I'm just gonna say this. You're gonna have me back when I have my stupid braces off. I see every time I see that, I'm like, oh God. Anyway, go ahead. All the
how
laws.
much longer do you have with them? You have them
Well,
on?
I'm getting them off in July, so it'll almost be two
Oh, in
years.
July. Oh, so it's right around the corner.
It's right around the
All right.
corner.
Well, we
Yeah.
will have you back on so you can show us your pearly
Yes.
whites and your new straight teeth.
Oh, they'll be
Yeah,
coffee stained, but they'll be straight.
coffee stain with it. My wife, she got braces, and she was so good about taking care of them.
Well, women
I
are.
just I don't know that if I ever got braces, I don't think I would ever care for them as well as my wife did. I think I would be the same. All the spots on the teeth would be, have
Yeah.
coffee stains or have other stains on there. I'd have I'd have food in there from when I ate the week before or whatever.
It's a
But
nice.
yeah, it's you if you're taking care of them and they're working and you're on schedule, hey, more power to you.
Yeah.
With my daughter, we ended up getting those Invisalign ones just so that we didn't have to worry
Yeah.
about
I
all
wanted
the
those
metal
too, but the
stuff with
doctor
her.
said my issues needed the real thing. So anyway, here I
Yeah,
am.
yeah. No, some
51
you
years
do,
old,
some you
braces.
absolutely. The Invisalign is not gonna work. So, hey, we got someone in already. We got Jess, Miss Squeegee Chick herself. How you doing? Hopefully you're doing well and your day's going good. She's always a loyal watcher, and we appreciate her always checking in with us. Anyways, so what's going on with you, Pete? So, for those who have watched the Squeegee U podcast for a while, you know that Peter is my co-host for a long time when we first started. Got some things going on, but how's business in New Mexico going?
It's good. This is our 20th year as a company. So we're
Wow,
pretty excited. In October, it'll be our 20-year anniversary. And yeah, just steady, spreading out to some other cities close by, building up business, and yeah, we're good. We're good to go.
excellent. How's Gabe doing?
Gabe's great. He's in the office right now, steering the ship. So yeah, Gabe.
He's steering
How's
the
my
ship.
Gabe doing? Right, you're Gabe, and then I have a Gabe.
Yeah, yeah.
He's doing
So
good.
so
He's
when we
going
oh good.
away. Go ahead.
I was just going to say when we went down and filmed, Gabe was the one who actually helped us with the waterfed module part, and his name is Gabe Gonzalez, and my name is Gabe Gutierrez. So we were the GGs there in New Mexico. So but we got along. We got along well. We figured out who was who. Not too much confusion.
You missed him at the huge. We went to the huge convention, and that was the
He
year.
did.
Yeah, we were there, and you didn't go that year. It was real. We missed you.
Oh, okay, yeah,
It
no,
was in Atlanta.
yeah, and I think I'm probably gonna end up missing this one as well.
Okay.
I got too much traveling, and with my parents' health, it's just hard for me to be away for too long periods.
Right.
If I can, I have to make sure my siblings on there. But I never say never. I might be able to at least even if I can't go with the booth, I might go as a visitor just to say hi to everybody. Since
Cool.
it's always nice to see people there. Well, hey, Pete, I'm glad that you're able to come on. Something that we've always, we've mentioned before when you were with us. You have a background in accounting, so when you started your business, you already had the business mindset that a lot of us window cleaners who don't have that. We're like working hard to try and build and try to be smart business people and trying to make right decisions and all that. So you came in with that knowledge, and you had to kind of learn how to be a window cleaner for a second after being a business person. So you had kind of that unique vision of being able to come in as an experienced business person and make the right decisions when you were coming in. So that's why I always like to talk with you, because I think you have a really good insight, and you kind of are able to kind of cut to the chase of some of the problems and issues that people have when they first start their businesses. So if it's okay, I want to ask you a couple or bring up a couple topics, and I'd like to pick your brain on it and see some of the things that what things you would caution people against, and what things you should say, hey, go for this when it's that time. So so the first question was, or the first topic is intermingling money. So when we start a business, we kind of almost think of the business as almost our bank account. I know I did when I first started, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm doing like 4 or 5 jobs a month. It's really not that much. I got a bunch of little jobs. Got some commercial storefronts, and it's just very easy just to get paid and then just pocket that, and it's your money. So what are some things to keep in mind when it comes to intermingling money?
Don't do it. So obviously, it depends obviously on your personal situation. Some people have to start a business because they're starving and they need to
Yeah.
like get money right away. So that what might happen is that you just need money and you start pocketing your money, and it's easy to start just depositing that money into your regular checking account. So what you want to do, even though it costs a little bit of money, in the long run, it's going to save you money. Get a separate checking account that's your business, a business account, separate from yours, and then you have to decide what kind of an entity you want to be. You want to be a sole proprietor or pay yourself as an employee. So probably at the beginning, you want to set up an LLC, sole proprietorship, and you're going to just take draws. Now, from a tax standpoint, if you do that, you better set aside some money every month. So every quarter, you could send it to federal, and depending if you're in a state where you pay income
Yeah.
tax, you better do that too. So these are things, basic things that you probably should keep in mind. Don't commingle your money. That's just the bottom line.
So what's some of the problems? Because I know this is what I ran into. Like I said, when I first started, and you take the money, and you're if you're a sole proprietor, it is your money. You can put it into your personal account. It's that's perfectly fine. But what happens during tax time? Why is that such a struggle? And we've got Jake in here too. Jake Van Orden's in here, and he's a
Jake,
tax professional, so I'm sure he'll have some
Jake.
comments on this as well.
Well, I've heard Jake. He pretty much. I mean, it's not different methods. It's pretty much the same thing. Even though you're a sole proprietor, you can throw everything into your personal one. But then when it's tax time, it's a nightmare. So even if you're a sole proprietor, get your own checking account because you're going to want to expense things, expensing what you have to buy for your business, your squeegees, your soap, whatever. That lowers your tax income. So that way you're not paying so much tax. So take the time to educate yourself a little bit on that stuff. So that way tax time you don't end up having a shoebox with a bunch of receipts and handing them to your accountant, and then at the end they say you owe X amount of dollars. That's like out of this world when you're barely making enough to live. But you're going to owe a lot of tax if you don't do some tax planning from the beginning.
And not only will you just have a lot of tax, but you're not going to know exactly how much tax. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem I had was I could identify what my income was because I saw the deposits, right? So I could go back and look at what I made from the business, and that was from Gabe Spotless. But I didn't always have, like you said, receipts, or I had expenses that were made. That was this a business expense? Was it not? If you lose that receipt, or you can't find it on your statement, that's money that you're now paying taxes on that you shouldn't, because it should have been deducted. It should have been deducted from that total. So you
Exactly.
actually end up paying more money because you're disorganized, that was definitely with my case.
So what you want to do then is, at some point, if you keep growing, we go to the next step. You start hiring people. So that's where you're going to have to figure out if you want to stay an LLC, sole proprietor, or if you want to create an S corp. Now, all of these
Yeah.
words that are thrown out there, I mean, it sounds like I have to hire this expensive CPA, but you don't. You don't. You just have to do this one time, and then from there on out, you educate yourself, and you can either have somebody do it for you or hire somebody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jake, being one of our consultants at Squeegee U, I mean, he has a very affordable plan to get your entity switched over to like he says, he comments, always start with an LLC to protect yourself as well. So
Exactly.
even if you don't want to be a S corp or something bigger, LLC at least to separate your income and your expenses, like you said, get that extra account, but also it protects yourself from some of the liability that you might have, that someone, instead of going after your business, they may end up going after your personal stuff, your
Exactly.
own assets. Yeah. And then so you mentioned hiring. So that is always a tricky one, and probably maybe the second or third question that I get asked about, when is the right time to hire? And it's always a balancing act, right? Of, well, I've got way too much work to handle by myself. But then you're like, well, then I hire, then I get all of these headaches and problems, right? So what are some things that we should keep in mind when it comes to knowing if it's the right time to hire, and also how should we do it?
Well, what happened with me is, if you're doing all the work, and I had enough work to where I worked all day long out in the field, and then I was spending lots of time on paperwork at night, and then on the weekends, making phone calls, making appointments.
Yeah.
If you end up where you feel like, everybody's bandwidth is different, but if you feel like you have no life, it's time to hire. And that's how I was. I was working like just crazy. So I hired, and I mean, I was still in the field for a long time, but it did alleviate some of the work load off of
Yeah.
me. Obviously, the more work you get, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself if you keep building up your client base. So at some point, you're going to have to hire. And when I say to hire, um, sometimes a good source is somebody that can refer someone that you trust. I've had success with that, close relationships, people that refer people that I know that they have good judgment. Have I hired some lemons? Oh yeah, that goes with it. 20 years in business. It's going to happen. So like right now we have 12 employees and we're growing. So, you get to a point where you learn through hard knocks. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
situation.
For sure. So do you have a system or a protocol in place for when you do have a bad hire, that you're not kind of stuck with them?
Yeah. So I always do a 3-month probation period. And when I hire, I explain to them that, during this time, you can decide, this isn't for you. I can decide, you know what, you're not progressing as fast as I would like for you to. I explain that
Hmm.
from the get go, and I let them know, is this arrangement going to work for you? And if they're like, no, then, thank you for coming in. But sometimes after 3 months, I feel like you can tell normally if someone's going to work or not. That even
Yeah.
that short amount of time. So, um, but I do have a 3 strike you're out system. I do a verbal warning, which I put it in the records. The second one's a written warning. Then the third is I terminate them.
Yeah.
That's kind of the system I have.
Yeah, that's very good. And I think it's so smart. We have a month probationary period, but I now that you say 3 months, I don't know. Now I'm thinking maybe I should move it to 3 months, because and I think month is pretty good. We same conversation. I just say, hey, we'd love to have you on the team. Just so you know, we don't ever hire anybody outright. We always hire on a 1 month probationary period. At the end of the month, if you're not happy with the job, you can walk away. If we're not happy with the fit, we're just not going to offer you any work after that. But we just lay it on the table so they understand that there's the job isn't promised yet, but they have potential. We think that
Yeah,
they'll fit in.
I
But
find
then,
that I find 3 months gives them a chance to grow into the job more. Because
mhm,
1 month, I feel like it's like people are barely catching on. But that's
yeah,
me. Everybody's different.
yeah. James Smith says he does 2 months, so he's right in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason why I did 1 month is because I had one guy that I hired that I should have probably let go a lot earlier than I did. and it was my fault because I typically do a more thorough interviewing process, but he was moving in from, I don't remember, it was Oregon or Washington, and he was trying to pick which city to move to. And so he called in asking, he's like, well, I'm just seeing where work is available. I'm going to go wherever work is. I want to be on the southwestern part of the United States, but I just don't know where. He was looking at New Mexico, Southern California, Arizona. And so I felt like since he was moving, I should give him a job. So I forego the probationary period. And, oh, what a huge mistake, man. I mean, he was one of my worst employees, and just slow. I mean, just really, really slow. Whenever we had several people working on a big project, he was nowhere to be found. He just really he made my life miserable. Anyways, I kept him for 3 months. I kept him through the busy season, and once the busy season was done, I finally, we had a 1-to-1 on and talk, and turned out he was sick of it too. He was ready to go because I was hounding him all the time, and just wasn't a good fit. So that's when I changed it to I said a month. I said a month is good, because then that will be, then if they're bad right away, I can get rid of them quick. They don't hang around too late. But I do see the wisdom in giving them some time to grow into it, especially if they're genuinely trying, if they're working hard, and it gives them a chance to kind of make adjustments to the system. I can definitely see that.
I can't even see you firing anyone, Gabe. You're too nice.
Yeah. We have a couple. So Steve Erdman, he says he does 3 months as well, but he says, I'm like most other business owners and sometimes don't fire fast enough. Yeah, that's the same. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I always trying to find the good in someone, keep them around. Mark Tanner says usually within 1 month you'll find out something about a new employee that probably would have disqualified him. So yeah, that was my thinking as well, but I think we can all make those adapt it to what our needs are at our business and our area too. Like it was I think you said you had an argument with somebody on there who was saying that what did he tell you, that he got all mad at you and you about hiring?
I made a comment on one of the groups, and I just was giving some direction on how to hire people, and this dude just went off, called me names. You don't know where I live. Everybody's a drug addict. Everybody here is this and that. And I'm like, I live in the 49th poorest state in the United States. And I can afford to have 12 employees. I think if you structure, no matter where you live, I'm sorry if I disagree with someone that's listening now, but if you set your mind and you have the right growth plan, you can grow anywhere. But if you have a negative, outlook, and you have a problem with people, if you get on forums and yell at complete strangers, I can see why you can't. So anyway.
Well, yeah, a few weeks ago I had Mark McCauley on. He's a business coach, and he said something that I really liked. He said, if you believe that there are no good hires out there, then there aren't.
Right.
And it's basically it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you hire someone and you're going to immediately be looking for the wrong things, or the things things that annoy you, or things that you want to fix. So you have to go in believing that there's good workers out there. It's just a matter of finding them, And I think there's definitely some things that we can do to weed out bad employees. I know for me, the one that was very effective for me is I require a resume. Even if someone, thinks that, they like, I've never written a resume in my life. It's so easy to go on to ChatGPT and say, hey, write a resume for me. I mean, it just takes the minimal amount of work that's necessary. And if they're not really even willing to do that minimal work, do I even want them to work for me?
Exactly.
So it's an exercise in problem solving. And I just feel like that's a reasonable thing for an employer to expect. And if they can't do that, then I'd rather pass. Even if they're a good window cleaner, it just seems like that's going to be problems down the end if they can't even follow that direction, and overcome that challenge that's presented to them.
I agree with you. And I've had some success stories with some guys that I thought were just going to be complete flops. And one of them right now is one of our crew leaders. He's been with me for probably
Nice.
4 or 5 years. He just made a 180 on his attitude, on his work ethic. So try to spot attitudes. One of the things that I try to hire is not so much skill, but somebody that's humble. If you get
Yeah.
some know-it-all that's thinks he knows everything, and it's like a cancer to the rest of the company.
Yeah.
So
No, that's for me. That's my biggest worry. When it comes to keeping somebody too long, because I've had it happen. I remember I had this one guy, and he'd experienced window cleaning. I think he had been cleaning like 15 years. And he was a pretty young guy. He started really young, but he had worked in a lot of commercial, big kind of franchise, big commercial companies. And so he had been bouncing around between them, and I hired him, and real good interview, just real positive. But man, as soon as he got with the crew, as soon as I wasn't there, he just became really negative. And I
exactly.
remember talking with my, at the time he was my lead tech, and they went to do this job, and they walk in, and it's all ladder work on the inside. I shouldn't say all ladder work, but it's like about 8 or 9 ladder climbs on the interior. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. No one likes that. But he says, "Oh man, it's this job," and he starts complaining immediately about the job. And then Andrew, who was my number one at the time, he says, "Man, Gabe," he goes, "I've done that job, 10, 15 times," and he says, "But hearing him complain about it, I started hating the job."
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
and he's a guy who's a good window cleaner and a good worker, and but that type of thinking can infect the rest of your crew, if you're not careful. And yeah, that's my biggest thing I worry about for sure is hey, I may have good workers on my team, but do I hire the one person that's going to start making them either snipe with each other or just make people not happy to come to work? If that's
Right.
the case, then they're not worth their, even if they're skilled, for sure.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we got another one here. So that was hiring. The other one was, oh yeah, business entity. We've talked a little bit about that, and we can just touch on a little bit more. Why is it important to get the right entity when it comes to forming your business?
So I mean, it's all about taxes, basically.
Yeah.
So when you are, like Jake said, you want to start out as a sole proprietor. You don't want to start as an S corp right away. You can, but normally you want to have some growth, and then after that, you can start paying yourself as an employee. This helps you because an S corp, what that does is the profits flow through to you. Okay, so let's say you make a net. Let's say you're paying yourself 50,000 a year as a salary, but your company made net $100,000 net profit. You're going to get taxed for $150,000 as a person, as an individual. S corps don't get taxed as corporations. It's called a flow through entity. So the profit or the loss goes to you. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, to be able to manage your taxes, once you get big enough, I think I switched to an S corp when I started hitting the 200,000-300,000 a year range, and that helped my tax. Being able to manage my taxes better than trying to remember to make a tax payment and taking a big chunk of money to pay taxes.
Yeah.
It affects your cash flow.
Yeah, for sure. And then you can do matching draws, right? So if you have if you're paying yourself on the payroll, you can, if whatever you need to make, you can do half of that through payroll, and then the other half as draws, I
Yeah.
believe.
So they're,
Jake can clarify that.
well, I can clarify
But
it. It's called it's called a distribution, not a draw. So
distribution, that's it.
when you do S corps, it's not a draw. Draws are when you have a sole proprietor and LLC.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
So distribution, a shareholder distribution. Now the temptation might be, I'm going to pay myself $10,000 salary and take a giant distribution. Well, the IRS has rules on that. So you have to figure out what a reasonable salary is. The IRS will say, can you actually live off that salary? And then you can make your distributions, kind of balance it out so that way you avoid paying so much self-employment tax.
Yeah. Jake says that we tell people if you start making 100K take home, it's definitely time to become an S corp.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
good bit of advice there. All right, cool.
Look who
All
knows
right,
so
so the next one
much.
is oh, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Look who knows so much. Jake.
All right, well, the next one is how to scale. So I think this is a huge question because, well, so one, you've got two schools of thought, right? So you've got one, hey, I don't want to scale. I'm happy working by myself. I'm happy being a sole proprietor, or even if you're not a sole proprietor, just being a single owner operator. And but you still have to provide. You still have to kind of go that way. But then you've got others who are like, well, hey, I'd like to turn this into something. I'd like to hire. I'd like to grow. I'd like to get off the truck. And be able to see the business provide for me and my family separately. So what's some advice that you have for knowing, first of all, knowing when is the right time to scale, and two, how to do it in a smart way?
So, and some of the guys on here may want to chime in, but personally, once again, I thought that a good indicator of time to scale is just if I'm working too many hours. Now, some people are like, hey, I can work, I'm a Viking. I work 80 hours a week and that good for you. But most of us that have this start a window washing company, we want a life too. And yeah. I encourage people to look at this as on the long run, because when you're scaling, if you scale it good enough, you're going to be able to sell your company and have a brand. So build your brand. And as I've scaled over the years, 20 years, it gets to the point where most of my customers don't know who I am. And I like that.
Yeah.
People don't know who the CEO of Walmart is, do they? Do they go into Walmart? Hey, where's the CEO?
Sam Walton, man.
I need to know. Well, everybody knows who he is, right? But let's say you don't go looking for him, though.
Right. No, if you saw him on the street, you wouldn't know who it is.
You don't call him on the phone. Hey, I'm going to pop in. Can you be there so I can say hi? And that's my mindset as far as scaling. You want to scale your company to where you're building a brand. That way you can walk away at some point with a nice chunk of money and somebody else can take the reins and go. Now, when to scale? I think that what Jake is talking about, when to form an S corp, I think that's a good time to start scaling, hiring people. Use that as a your point where, okay, now I have an S corp. Now I'm going to be paying employees in this S corp, and I usually, if I'm booked out 3 weeks in advance, it's time to get another truck. That's too long, in my opinion. People start getting annoyed that they can't get in sooner. And we're booked out pretty far, but I always try to leave holes to where when people call, you always got these calls on a Wednesday. Hey, I have a party on Saturday. Can you guys come? And it's this massive house that is going to be your customer for the next 10 years. And you don't want to turn them away. So when you start turning away business because you're too busy, it's time to start scaling more.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I know for me, it got to the point where, because and I've mentioned this before on the podcast, I made a bad hire, regretted it, and then I was making more money gross and taking home less money as a owner.
Right. Exactly.
It was like I was working harder for less money. So when he quit, I just like, nope, I'm not hiring. And then, but the work kept coming, and then you're just killing yourself, and I didn't want to kill myself anymore. So I had to learn how to hire right. So what are some things to keep in mind when it comes to that, when you want to scale for that purpose of growth?
So I use different sites like Better Team, which feeds into ZipRecruiter, Indeed. I tried on my ads. I put on there different things like sales ability, not just a window cleaner. Because sometimes when you put window cleaner, you just got some laborer.
Oh,
And
dude,
sometimes they're good.
Circle K.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or I don't know why like tons of fast food people always apply.
Car
Um,
wash people. Always car wash people. Oh yeah, I clean windows all the time. Yeah.
but like right now, I have a guy that was a banker, and because of the way we structured our ad, he's come in and he's been a great addition. Um, just other guys that have different fields, but I don't want just and there's nothing wrong with the laborer. Some of the laborers I've hired have turned out to be
Mhm.
great too. But you got to keep this in mind too. It's not, I don't care who you hear, hey, I've got a perfect hiring system. There's no perfect system. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to hire some bonehead like you that made your life miserable. On paper they look perfect, and sometimes you come across that guy. Like I said, go for humility. If you get a humble guy that's willing to adapt to
Mhm.
what you need to tell him, to adapt to the team culture, then you're going to have a home run. And in the last couple of years, most of our hires have been that way. In the early years, I had some rough situations, where I
Yeah.
was just desperate. We had all this work, and like the first guy that came in, and then I had a funny experience. You know, I didn't used to have an employment manual. Now I have that too, and I have them read it all before I hire them to make sure they can live up to the expectations we have. And one of the things I put in there is no smoking on the job.
Yeah.
They had several guys that they're over there smoking at the people's houses, and
Oh, dude.
people calling me like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yes.
Your employees are over here smoking. And it was just stuff like that, get it weeded out, vaping on the job, all that crap. I'm like, you want to do that on the weekend, go for it. You're not doing it at work. But sometimes if you hire a smoker, they're all shaky, they're freaking out, you know, um, have fun with a smoker. And some of you might be
Well,
smokers and great workers, but I haven't seen that
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I mean, there's definitely people who know how and when, right? I've had employees that smoked. I had one guy who he's just really good. He just made sure he kept it. He went to, if he needed a smoke break, he'd drive over to, after a job, to a parking lot somewhere, and have his smoke, and then he'd go on. He was really respectful. But I remember I hired one guy. I was real desperate, man. We were just drowned. We had so much work, and I just needed somebody. I hired a guy who worked for another one of those big companies out here, the commercial side, and so the first job he rode with me. We get there, same thing, and I didn't have that written down in our handbook yet, about smoking on people's property. So I had, and it was a customer who, I mean, we clean every 6 weeks. Wonderful customer, super sweet, pays us well, just a dream client, right? And she comes up to me, she calls me to her, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hate to bring this up, but could you please ask your employee to not smoke around my property? I don't like it. I don't want it around my property. I don't like my neighbors seeing that. Could you just, and I was like, who's smoking? I forgot, like, I just, it didn't occur to me. I had that new guy with me, and then I'm like, oh. So I went and talked to him. And so I had a discussion with him, and I was like, look, man, you can't be smoking on people's property. If you really need bad, just let me know. We'll take you, to do a smoke break in between, but can't do, I told him just like that. And he literally quit. He
Yeah,
quit.
I had one
I,
like that
I
too.
drove him. Yeah. I drove him to a gas station, dropped him off there so that one of his friends or relatives can pick him up. I mean, it was like, I couldn't
We,
believe it. It was just so shocking, but
we have had
yeah.
we
So,
have had parallel situations, and I think identical. All of that's happened to me, you know.
yeah,
But
but it means a lot
well,
to him, I guess.
well, it's a that's why
So,
they call it vice. But
right. So what are some other things to kind of keep in mind when scaling? Because I know when I scaled, or I started trying to, I should say, because my profits didn't show that scale part. Uh, what are you looking to do? Like, what are some things some problems you have to avoid? Because you're going to hit some bumps on that growth, and you don't want to. You got to know the difference between a bump that is like, hey, this is normal, and just keep going, or hey, something's really wrong. Maybe we need to stop real quick. So what do you see, or what advice would you give to someone who's not sure if it's the right time or they're doing it the right way?
Well, I don't know if I have a definite answer for that. All I can say is don't overhire. I'd rather underhire than overhire, because
Hmm.
then you have no work and you have a bunch of guys standing around, and some of your good
Yeah,
people will leave. So
yeah,
I tried to make sure that we were always busy, and that there weren't days where we were ending early because there was no work. It's kind of a fine line. You have to measure it to where how busy you are, how busy you want to be. Look at your net profit too, because sometimes you overhire and you get more work. And maybe when you had 3 employees, you're making 50,000 net profit, and then now that you have 10, you're making gross profit 1 million, and you're negative 20,000 in net.
right.
So,
Yeah,
that's a realistic situation that happens to lots of
yeah. No,
businesses.
no, that's
So
happened to
you
me.
you got to look at those numbers. I know people hate looking at numbers, but you've got to know a little bit about your numbers and see if you're making profit, because ultimately that's the moral of a business, is to make profit.
Yeah, that's so important. And I know that's where a lot of the mistakes I made. When I started making those decisions, whether to hire, to add a truck, to have more advertising, whatever it was that we did, wherever we took a step forward. I know in the beginning I didn't do it in a very smart way, and so it cost me. And that's like what you said. I would be putting more work, but then I would see the profits being less, and
Exactly.
the amount of money that's coming back to my family less. So, I mean, why would you work more to make less? So, if you're gonna help your business to grow in that sense, it has to be in a smart way, and part of that is looking at waste, right? I think that's the one thing that it's hard for us to do when we're growing, because we're used to our business running a certain way, and things that worked when we were a single owner operator may not work with employees. Of course, the
Oh
number
yeah.
one on that list is pricing,
No,
right? I
yeah.
mean, you have to raise prices, and every time I raised prices, I never raised them enough. I thought it was enough, but it wasn't, because of the overhead that we had. Now that we had a crew, and we had trucks, and we had insurance, and we had payroll tax and workers' comp and all that stuff, that all adds up. So if you're before you hire, you have to have a new price structure. You have to figure out what do you need to be charging in order for it to make sense. In order for you to be still be able to make what you should, and and hire.
Well, that's something that I think that as a if you're just yourself, owner operator, I think that you should start pricing as if you had a bunch of employees. Start
Absolutely.
out start out high, because if you start too low and then you start getting employees and you're having to like make drastic price increases, people are going to get, sticker shock. But if you start them out high,
Absolutely.
train your customers from the get go. That's what I did. I started with pretty high pricing, and people accepted it. And after a while,
Yeah.
people in your territory or town or city, wherever you work, they talk to each other and they're like, "Hey, what are you paying? I pay 350. Oh, okay, that's what I pay." But if you start out doing a bunch of houses for 125, and you're working like a dog, and yeah, you're going to get tons of work, but you're
That's
going to
it.
be working like a dog and basically making $20 an hour. I'm sorry, I don't want a business so I can
That's
make
it.
$20 an hour. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Man, sometimes, and the thing too, I always tell people when we're talking about pricing, and they're saying, "Well, that's too much. That's too much for my area." And I always say, "Well, let's do the math here. Let's look at what actual time you're spending, because you're thinking the time on the job, the time that
Right.
it takes you you put your truck pulls into the driveway, you put your equipment on, you clean the windows, you talk to the customer, you get paid, you get back in your truck and you drive off. In your mind, that's how much you're making per hour, but that's not
Right.
the truth, because one." You've got work that you do before, right? You've got to
Right.
wash the towels. You got to make sure you got your truck is stocked. You've got to whatever the truck needs to be, ready. If it needs air, it needs gas. All of that's time. It takes time to do that. Number two, you've got the bookkeeping part, right? You got a bunch of invoices and stuff, or things you got to send out, customers to call, customers to schedule. That's all time that takes. But then you've also got the cost of just being a business owner. I mean, you're always on call as a business owner, right? So there's all of this back work that you're doing that you're not even thinking about as work. It's just stuff that you do because you're a business owner, but
Right.
you should be compensated for that.
Exactly.
So if you can fit, when I sat down with the person, it was an accountant who kind of helped me with pricing. One of the things she said was, can you figure out, can you guesstimate how much time you spend in the office washing towels, doing repairs, all this stuff, and just guesstimate how much how much time are you spending in a month? And then I gave her a number, which I don't remember what it was at the time. And she says, okay, well, now let's break that up into how many jobs you have in a month. And that's how much you need to add on top of the jobs of the per hour that you think you need. This needs to be on top of that. And it was mind blowing to me because what it was doing was it was giving value to the time that I spent as a business owner that other people didn't notice.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
we have to get compensated for that.
and people, these people that are like, I'm paying you $25 an hour. It's insulting. I don't want them. That recently there was a lady that said that, that she was talking about her lady that cleans her house.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm paying her $20 an hour. And it's like, a home service business is different than you working at some office for an hourly wage. It's a whole different thing, especially if they have to buy the cleaning supplies, they have to travel to your home, whatever. It's just mind-boggling to some people, and those people, we don't want them as customers.
That's it.
That's
it. I one time this tells you the type of people that we have to work for sometimes. We booked this job and we gave the price and the ladies booked us. I brought two people with me because we were gonna go knock it out and take care of another job. And it probably one person could have done the house, but like I said, I wanted to get done quickly so we could fit in another job. So we pull in and this lady opens the door and literally proceeds to lecture me on my pricing and to say how we're overpriced and how can you charge people and how dare you and this and that and hard work and but she kept her appointment so that I would go to her so she could lecture me, and she didn't let us do the job. That's and I just was like, but what was nice is I got to take my guys out. We went and got something to eat. We went and did a lunch, and I had them with me. It ended up being a nice break because it was during our busy season, so we were kind of going. But it just shows how there's a disconnect there. They don't have that business mindset. They think that we're hourly workers,
exactly,
and that we literally show up, just do the work, and that's all we do with our business. And it's just not that way. There's just so much. So we have to be compensated on that for sure. Yeah, crazy stories, man. But all right, so our last topic that I wanted to talk about before we head out is our use of social media. And in particular, there's a couple areas on that. One is going to the forums, especially when you're a new business owner and a new window cleaner, going to the group forums. And then the other is our own posting on our own social media and how we should use that. So let's talk a little bit, first of all, about what things we have to be cautious about when we go into those forums, when we go into the Facebook groups, because there's a lot of great stuff in there, right? I mean, I'm in a ton of groups.
No, that's tough. Hey, by the way, Gabe Gonzalez just logged in. There he is.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Nice. Hey, Gabe, how you doing, man?
So I'm glad that I started my business in 2006, and back then I don't remember a lot of YouTube stuff. Facebook didn't exist. No. So I really I did there probably was stuff out there at that point, but I probably didn't start looking at things like that after like 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
And I couldn't believe how much garbage there is out there.
Yeah.
People that just want to put other people down. I guess that's just how society is. Now, there are guys out there that are really helpful with tips. Um, I'm going to shout out to Steve-O, who had his own business for a long time, and he made lots of videos. And for the love of the work, and then now he's a rep for WCR, and then there's other
Mhm.
guys that work for other companies. So you know, just be careful. A lot of guys too, they make social media posts because they're trying to sell stuff, and that's fine. I did it for a while
Mhm.
too. I was a salesperson, but um, all I can say is like really look at the instructional videos. I think YouTube is
Yeah.
really good for that, and obviously the module that you can buy from Squeegee U is also helpful. But when you get onto these social media sites, I would use social media to promote your own business. So
Mhm.
you can get into like moms in town have these special forums, businesses. You can
Yeah.
put yourself in these, insert yourself into all of these different groups where you're trying to promote your business. And that is what my focus would be on. Maybe
Yeah.
periodically get into the window washing groups and see if there's some helpful tips. But if you just see a lot of back and forth baloney, just ignore that stuff and try to extract what from what you can helpful things, because there were helpful like podcasts um, are really great, like yours. I used to listen a lot to Jersey at WCR. There's some helpful things that
Mhm.
he says, and there's others out there that aren't into arguing with people and putting other people down. So I would do that, because if you listen too much to that, you can get into a negative mindset even, and
Yeah.
don't do that.
And I think the thing we have to be careful with, especially being in those forums, because there, like I said, there's a lot of really valuable information in there. It's just sometimes to find it, you have to sift through a lot of negativity, and also a lot of loudness. Sometimes it's the louder people who get the more prominence in these groups, and they almost become celebrities because they are loud and they're always have an opinion about something, and they say things. And if there's no substance behind that, then it just kind of becomes empty. It's just more fame for fame's sake. So you have to be careful who you listen to, because people are good at making themselves appear bigger than they are, or their company more successful than it really is. And if you're listening to advice from someone who doesn't really have it together, but they're pretending they do, then it kind of diminishes. You may end up taking bad advice. Um, but I think it can also make you feel bad about this. I've written about this in the American Window Cleaner magazine. If you focus too much on other people's successes, you may never find out all the challenges that they had or the failures that they have, because we all have failures at different things. We all
Yeah,
try and don't achieve our goal, and that's okay. That's a normal part of business. But if on social media people are only promoting their successes, they're never talking about, or rarely, some guys are really open and honest, and they will share when they're struggling with something. I think that's really cool. I know like Jason Gulick is one who as open. I know Charles Smith has also shared some of the struggles that he's had, and some other people who are, they're pretty out there, and they're not afraid to kind of say, "Hey, look, I'm a window cleaner." I think that's real positive, because that helps all of us to kind of feel like we're in it together. But we can kind of beat ourselves up because we're not equal to someone's projected status, in the industry, and that can be something that can bring us down unnecessarily when they may be having very similar struggles than what you're having,
yeah,
and it's just you don't see it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta, because sometimes you can start watching that stuff, and I don't know. You got to decide on your own. Do I want to be a part of that, like scene, or do I want to make my business grow? And I guess you
Yeah.
can do both too. But
Yeah.
I notice a lot of window cleaners now, they want to be famous in the window cleaning world. And good for you, but me,
Yeah.
my priority is making my own business grow. So and now if
Yeah.
you share some of your successes with others and how you did it, that's nice, and many
Yeah.
have done that in the past. I know one of the things that inspired me was listening to Brandon Bond. He's another one
Hmm.
that has an amazing
Yes.
success story, and he can give you actually tangible things that he did to where you can also incorporate it into your business. So he's another guy
Yes.
that I would recommend watching.
Yeah. No, it's very true. And I just kind of what you said about, are you there to be, in the social media? Are you there to grow your business? I think of someone like Squeegee Rich Sapi, I think is how you say his last name. He's from England. He has a really big social media following, but he became an affiliate for Maker. So now he's selling Maker products overseas. So that was someone who, yeah, he's got his window cleaning business, but he was able to parlay his social media audience into helping him to become an affiliate. And now he's really excited about it. He's really
Yeah.
happy that he's on that. So that's an example of a positive way to kind of use that presence that you have on social media. Um, the danger, though, I think, is sometimes people, because maybe they don't get the followers they want, or they don't get. I talk to some guys and they're like, "Hey, man, I've made like 5 posts on my social media and no one's called me," and I'm like, "Man, social media doesn't work." I mean, sometimes it does. Sometimes people want to support you, and you make a post, and then they'll call you. But more, it's about branding, and it's about your brand awareness, being in front of your potential clients on a regular basis, so they see you, they see what you're
Exactly.
doing. That all helps your business to grow. That's
Exactly.
what they're really looking to do. And if you aren't in it for the long haul, if you're not in it for the long game, so to speak, you're going to be really disappointed with the short term results, because it's just not the way it works that way.
No, it's kind of like this friend of mine that started a landscape business. He went out and bought all of the most expensive equipment. He put 100 flyers indoors, and he was all pissed off because not one called. And it was like, dude, you would be fortunate if one called. 100 flyers. It's
Yeah,
one of
that's
those
nothing.
things where you have to just, and that's what I make posts on Facebook about our business. Obviously, we have like over 2,000 followers, and they're mostly in town in Las Cruces where I live. So people see that, and it kind of reminds them, oh man, I've got to call this company to get my windows done, whether there be reoccurring ones or ones that have never used us. So you do want to stay out there in the forefront if you want to grow your business. Um, as far as the other stuff, people, I think it's more for entertainment almost,
Yeah.
which is good for them. I find it,
Yeah. And
I find it amusing sometimes to watch some of these guys. They're hilarious.
yeah, yeah.
What's his name? Squeegee. That guy is like
He's,
he's ridiculously hilarious sometimes.
yeah.
He's over the top for me sometimes, but most of the time, and I've talked to him, he's just a real cool dude. He's regular. I think it's just he's just very what's the word? Verbose? I don't know if that's the right word, but
Verbose, yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that's totally true. I think some people are just they're and they want to be entertainers, not like they expect to make a whole bunch of money from it. It's like a release for them. It's fun for them. They get the response, it's just kind of a little what does my daughter say? Uh what's that chemical you get when you get like a happiness, the happiness thing? Now I'm blanking out. She says it all the time. But yeah, it gets a little adrenaline hit, and you're happy, and some people enjoy it. I like doing it. I just don't have time to do it.
Exactly.
I don't have the time, not only just the filming it, but the editing. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen. Well, like Adam Hogan's on here. So like I mentioned, Squeegee Rich, Charles D. Smith. They have these really impeccably edited, videos that they post. I mean, it
Right.
is really impressive. and they're having fun with it. I mean, more power to them. I wish I had the time to do that. I just don't. But
I don't have the
I
energy
do enjoy
anymore.
when I do it. You know, I do enjoy when I get to put some time into it. But it's just dopamine. Thank you, Jess. That's it. Dopamine hit. That's what my daughter's always saying. She's like, I need dopamine, which means she wants to go get like a donut or something. So
Future policewoman. So
yeah,
anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's if you can, sift through all the garbage, there is a lot of good stuff for a window cleaner to learn, and
yeah,
on the business side, and even just the technical side of it. Um,
yes,
there's so many now. You have so many to choose from. So, but don't get, I think you can only take in at some point so much information where you have to use it practical uh, in the field, and you're gonna
hmm
do you too. You're not, if you want to be junior so and so, you're never gonna be that. It's
yeah.
different where you live. It's, you're a different person. It's different. So anyway,
Yeah, I just want to address something real quick since we're almost out of time. James Smith, he says, I've been thanked by my customers for not hanging flyers in their neighborhoods. They've gone out of their way to let me know specific neighborhoods that prohibit it. And I think that's really important. If you're going to do door to door, even just not knocking, but just leaving flyers or leaving door hangers, just follow the community rules. And I know a lot of the D2D people. Their attitude is, hey, if you're not getting yelled at, you're not working hard enough. You're not hustling enough. And there's like, hey, there's really no law that says we can't do this, so we're just going to go do it. I mean, if that's your attitude, all right, whatever. I personally am like, hey, these are your potential customers,
yeah,
and if you go in with that attitude of like, I am not listening to your rules, then I just feel it puts you at a disadvantage if you're thinking of growth. If you're just wanting to go in, make some money in that neighborhood and never go back, well, whatever. If that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do that. But if you're thinking of growing and scaling and maintaining a loyal customer base, you got to have the right attitude. You got to come in and be the person that someone's going to want to call back,
right.
and just flouting community rules and laws. It just, I don't know. It just leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. You're right. Hey, thanks.
very good.
Appreciate everybody watching today, man. And
Yeah, thank you guys. Speaking of something else that we get that with social media is the fellowship and the networking that happens. You get to meet people who can encourage you, can give you advice, can give you mentorship. So I do want to give a shout out, as if you're part of Window Cleaning Nation, you probably have seen there's going to be a get together on the 16th of May. And so if you are anywhere near Utah, Salt Lake City in particular, and maybe I know one guy, he's coming from Idaho. It's a 4-hour drive for him. I am going to be flying up there. I got a really good price ticket. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jake and meeting him in person and hanging out with some other window cleaners in the Salt Lake City area. And we're going to be doing some giveaways. I know they have some giveaways. The IWCA is going to be doing a raffle for a free membership. So if you're there, you have an opportunity to win a free membership if you're not already a member. And then also Squeegee U is going to be giving away 1 free hour of consulting. So I'll be offering that up as well. And plus we'll be having swag. I'm going to bring some hats, shirts, stickers. We're going to have a bunch of stuff there. So yeah, if you guys can make it, just go ahead and get the information from the event part and the Squeegee Window Cleaning Nation, and you'll be able to get the directions there. But we're hoping to have a good crowd there. I think so far, there's 25 people who are committed.
Where is it again? That
in Salt Lake City, yeah, it's near. It's Draper Park is the area,
okay.
In particular. Yeah.
And when is that again?
That's going to be the 16th
of this month.
Of this month, yeah, Saturday. So a couple weeks away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I got a ticket for, I think it was like $138. So it's Frontier, so it's like that's no frills, man. I don't know if you've flown Frontier before, but
is that
I've done it often.
A lot of Adobe planes? No, that's different.
What's that?
Adobe made planes. Hope it
Right. Yeah,
doesn't
we
rain.
all got to get out and push it off the cliff and then jump in
Right.
before we go. But yeah, oh yeah. So Eric Rogers, yeah, the IWC will be in Austin, yeah, and yeah, that's where we're going to be. So if you go to the IWCA page, you'll see the information on where, and the registration will be opening up next week. I think it's on the 14th when you'll be able to register. So keep that in mind. But anyhow, yeah, we're about a minute over time. Anything else you want to see on the way out there, Mr. Cruz?
No, thanks for having me, and I apologize for not being on. It just, like I told you, lots of stuff going on, which will be a big reveal later on about it.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. And hopefully within the next few months, we'll get you on the consulting crew again. So
Yes,
looking
yes,
forward
I'm
to
looking
that.
forward to that.
All right. And thank you guys all. Just wanted to give some shout outs to some people. Of course, Jess, Squeegee Chick, she's been on here. Eric Rogers, Gabe Gonzalez, Jory Torres. We've got, let's see here, James Smith had a lot of good comments. We know, let's see, Adam Hogan popped in just for a bit. Jake Van Orden, of course, had some really good comments. And then Steve Erdman, as well as Mark Tanner. Nick Anderson popped in, also Charles D. Smith. So, yeah, we had a good crew here and some good comments. Thank you so much for making this as enjoyable as it always is for me every week. But you guys take care. We'll see you next Tuesday. And as always, just keep on slinging that squeegee.